Hello, and welcome back, everybody. And today we're gonna have the old brand new one, almost new one, Outer Worlds 2. And so this is basically the game after the update, and there is something to say. Though I deeply loved the Outer Worlds upon its initial release, I'm not be able to return to Obsidian's humorous capitalism gone every open world epic in meaningful way. And I was initially enraped by the franchise promise of the new Fallout style adventures and the ability to creep through the new environments, picking up loot and sniping berries while fulfilling quest checkpoints, all of which more than meet my qualifications for what I consider to be a new classic. But as time went on, the sheen on the other words tarnished just a little bit, but noticeably. I did back to review the Elder Words DLC when they dropped, but starting a fresh save always felt a bit daunting. Sometimes about to Sometimes it's about the tone of the original felt of a pudding. So content that I originally found to be light and amusing became like a garlic to my gaming vampire. I mean, not for a nice dish, but for the vampire, you know. So it was basically not helping. It was just a bit too goofy, slightly over swarmy in its take on what would happen to our culture if our collective consumerism was pushed to its logical conclusion. The characters felt more like caricatures. There are no recite lines of propaganda in the service of word building, but without any core of humanity. And as a result, I bounce off game every time I tried to renegade with it. The other words too offers a major course correction. It is clear that Obsidian has done a lot of work refining the tone of the game world. It is still funny and fun, but where the character is the first game felt like they were wearing Outer Worlds mascot costumes, representing the world's various factions. Now they feel like human beings caught in a system larger than themselves, and I came out of the original game clear about the point of the thing, but it is very memorable of the story, characters or factions. The other words too has put all of that lore and characterization front and the center of this game, giving the player many more hooks to hang out onto, which makes the Other Words universe feel like an amusement park and more like a real lived-in place. Anyone that has played Fallout or The Elder Scrolls will feel right at home here. After a brief introduction in missions, players are set free on first several semi-open worlds explore. Along the way, the side quests is where characters are introduced. It is possible to rage throughout the primary quest line, but you'll be doing yourself a disservice if you don't poke around the various elements and the structures on each planet, as some of them best content are tucked off to the side for the intrepid explorers. The Outer Worlds too has pivoted a location in Acadia, a system of the planets on the Doomsday Countdown. So throughout the series of the misshapes and misunderstandings, at the beginning of the game, the entire system is filled with the rifts, unstable faults in a time space that threaten to destroy everything in their vicinity. The player character, of course, takes with finding a way to avert this eventual cataclysm and save Akkadian inhabitants. Unfortunately, three politically powerful factions in the system insist on using the current crisis to jockey for power. Anti-Choice, the conglomerate result of hostile takeover between two competing factions in the upper worlds, represents the first game's runaway consumerism. Anti-Devitus are committed to advancement up corporate ladder throughout hard work and dedication, though they are quite blind to the fact that only choice would grind them up in a hot second if meant greasing the wheels of commerce. But that where the original game obsession with consumerism wins down. The Protectorate, a militaristic and authoritarian faction that came to power with its founder's invention of the skip dive and represents a different cause for Acadia's inhabitants to get behind. These foes ruled Acadia for an iron fist before Onti came swooping in and invaded the place, resulting in ongoing conflict. There is an Order of the Ascent and a group of semi-religious nutjobs that use the power of mathematics and the universal equation to attempt to someone successfully divine the future. The result of it's some rather vague, but sometimes early close to reality predictions. Unlike Auntie's choice, the Protectorate, the order and the ascendant seems to be fairly benign, but that's going mean to be that they are subject of the some sort of temptation and corruption as the other two. In addition to the big three, there are a couple of the other cults and crime organizations floating around, but all introduction in a way that allows the player to keep it straight in their head. By adding the new factions and pivoting away from the warning corporations of the first game, Obsidian has given this new system unexpected depth. Throughout, most characters do blindly follow whatever faction they belong to. Not everyone is beholden to a corporate master. The variety in Jiganism is extremely welcome. The factions and the original game pretty much blended together in my mind, where they are much more well defined. This makes dealing with the faction members among your companions much more nuanced and interesting. Not to spoil too much, but it's probably not surprised that over the course of the advantage, you do end up picking a gang of malcontents made of interesting representatives from each of these factions to drag along with your bonds from the planet to the planet in Arcadia. Each of them, of course, comes with their own sets of values and prejudices. Throughout, they do seem to repress these somewhat when I join your crew. I was particularly amused when the dragging my protectorate body throughout the whole list of holy sites of the faction, listening to him do logical cartwheels trying to justify and reconcile my behavior while I shot the place up and stole everything inside, while still remaining faithful to core beliefs. The usual set of side missions come along with each of these companions, which is one of the primarily diverse for upcoming second playthrough. In addition to Breaking Bad, I plan to go back and complete more of these folks' requests. There was simply too much to do and see to get all of it for the first time around. Further replay while you can be gained by amazing number of choices that you have both creating and developing your player character as usual. I find it amusing that these games offer the player a visual character creator at the beginning more than ever before. It made me laugh at how long I spent on this pointless activity. So I infrequently saw my character in the game with armor that I can't even remember what they look like. But beyond physical appearances, the player has a ton of other options, which to create an avatar that will make their experience unique, very unique. And through the woods and vast plan to explore, its spaces between settlements felt a bit barren. I mean, there are a few wonder characters scattered about, but for the most part, the wilds are surprisingly occupied by wildlife, which is fine. However, The Outer Worlds 2 is one of those games where once you kill something, it is gone for good. If you clear a cave or a settlement of scrappers, it is empty forever. Nothing ever respawns in the game. While this is understandable, it does have the effect on rendering large swaths of word kind of boring once you have paused throughout them at once. As someone who rarely uses the fast travel, I found myself leaning on it heavily, as there was a little point to creeping endless fields of where everything was already dead. I imagine the next month sometime we will start seeing YouTube videos. I killed everything on other words too. The sequel that solidates the Outer Worlds is the one viable franchise, pulling it from the shadow of the open world games I mentioned at the beginning of this video and redefining its identity as a leader in the space, while pulling back on the ridiculous nature of first game and making the game feel more human and indefatigable. The Outer Worlds 2 feels more welcoming and approachable. A work that will need that, and we want that. Thank you so much. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.